Hey, this is Steven from Steven's Classic Garage, and welcome to another part of the Kraut slash very similar to the Eurosport cross member brace. The brace that goes across the cross members from here to here and from over here to over here. So to brace the strut towers down at the bottom, because you see there is a big open space down there that needs to be braced. And you could actually see the brace. You can see one of the arms there. You can see the cross down there. Now guys, I rate this install. This is talking about the install and the procedure here. I rate the install at like a 3. Super easy to do. Very easy to do. Very little equipment required. Speaking of which, I have it here. So these are the couple pieces of equipment that are required. You need a, I suggest a big half-inch drive here extension. Does it say how long it is? No, it does not. This is just a Craftsman, but you can see how long it is. It's basically about the length. The opening is about a little bit over the length of a fist. And then you need a 3/4. Now this isn't the exact size, but this is pretty close. 3/4, and then you're gonna need a 3/8 with a very small one, about 2 fingers, and this is a 15 millimeter. So I'm sure the other one's supposed to be metric, but I don't have that one. And then you're probably, depending on your car, you're gonna need a impact wrench. This is a regular Chicago Electric, cheap, you know, 40 bucks or whatever, half-inch drive. Now it normally has a clip here, and I just took the clip off. The clip kind of helps it hold the socket on, but it's super annoying because it's really hard to get the socket off. So for me, it took about an hour to install. For you, using my instructions is going to take a very short period of time to install. So basically, what you need to do is that there's only 4 bolts for this install. The front 2 on the control arms and the back 2 on the control arms. Now let me go ahead and get down here and show you how to do this. So if you notice, right there's 1 bolt. I wish I'd bring my creeper out, but this car's too low for a creeper. And there is the other bolt, right? And then let me show you in the back. And so the other bolt looks just like this one, but is obviously on the other side. So that's the 15. These are the 15 ones back here, and then the front are the 3/4. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So this is how you're gonna do it. First thing that I would do is I would get, if I were to do it over again, I want to do it very quickly, and I wanted to tell somebody else how to do it. Get a towel, spread it underneath the car at that spot, and then you're gonna put your bracket on top of the towel so that it doesn't scratch the bottom of the bracket. So the powder coating is really nice on the bottom of the bracket. Then what you're going to do, so slide it underneath the car and kind of have it where it needs to be. Now if your car is lower, it is going to be harder to do than if it wasn't lowered and it's stock. My car is very low, so on coilovers, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So once you have the bracket down, what I would suggest that you do is you go underneath each of these sides. You don't really need to lift it. I did it as it was lowered. It's a little bit easier to do while it's lifted. So actually, let's do this. Let's do the lifted. So let's lift it first. So like I said, first make sure you have the towel underneath. You have the bracket already underneath there, sitting where it needs to go. Obviously, as you saw, let me show you how it goes in. So it goes in with these flat brackets this way, and then there's other bracket that's like that, and that goes in the back. And if you could see, it's concave downwards, like this. So that's how it goes. This goes concave downward, so it clears all your exhaust and all your other equipment. So that's how it goes in, right? It goes in just like you see it here. So have it sitting right on the ground, just like you see it here. So it's sitting down ready for you to go. Then you're gonna pick a side, pick a driver and passenger. Passenger side is harder because the oil pan is closer. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get a jack and put the jack right underneath the front control arm there and lift the control arm up until the wheel just comes off the ground. When the wheel just comes off the ground, you're able to get this bolt all the way out. If you don't take it all the way off the ground, then that bolt will not come out. That bolt will come most of the way out, but it will not come all the way out. And that is the bolt that you're going to have to use the impact wrench on. So go ahead and use the impact wrench and take that bolt out with the tire off the ground. And then with the tire off the ground, you can pull it all the way out and then just set it down. While the car is still lifted up slightly, obviously no jack stands in this case, so do not go all the way under the car. If you want to be super safe, I suggest using jack stands. Then go back to that back portion, use the 15mm and take out that nut. That nut's very, very easy to take off. So once you've done that and you put the nut right back there on the floor, you're ready to go to the next step. The next step is to come over here on this side and do the exact same thing. Take the jack out. It's okay to lower it without that pin being in there. Just obviously don't move the car. Don't move the car, don't drive the car. It's okay without that pin in there. Just don't move it. And it will be easy to put back in once it might misalign when you drop it, but when you pick it back up, you could align it back in. You could align that lower control arm and push the pin back in. Same deal with this one. Put the jack stand right underneath the control arm. The control arm there, and lift it up. Take the pin out while the jack is there. Use the extra space to go back and take that 15mm nut out. Same thing here, you're probably going to need to do an impact wrench. And again, the bolt will not come out unless you pick up the car and relieve some of the stress, and then it will allow you to take the pin out. So once you do that, you have the two back 15mm out, and you have the two front 3¼ out. What I suggest is that you lower the car all the way, take the jack out all together, and you lift up the back sections, the back two 15mm nuts, and you thread on the nuts to hold the bracket in. Now what I suggest is you get rid of any sort of lock washers or anything like that, because now that you're adding this extra plate, you're just going to have enough threads to go through the nut, and you want at least all the threads to contact the nut. So get rid of the lock washers and all that stuff and thread it in on this side and then on this side as well. So do it on one side, have it kind of hold it up there. Just do a couple threads. You don't have to go all the way in. Just do a couple threads in, do 3 or 4 turns in, then go to the other side, whichever side you pick, go to the opposite side, lift the bracket up and do that same thing there. Put just a couple threads on. Now that it's helping you put the bracket up, keep the bracket up, what you're going to do is you have 3 turns over here, 3 turns over there on the other side, is you're going to put the jack back in that spot underneath the control arm. You're going to lift it up until the wheel comes off the ground. You're going to line the bracket up, the bracket holes up, and then you're going to push the pin, push the bolt in there. And if you need to align it, because the wheel's off the ground, you could just grab the control arm and move the control arm back and forth to get all the holes to line up and get it to go through. And then using the 3/4, you go ahead and start to tighten. Don't tighten it all the way because you still have to pivot on this bolt to put the other side in. So put it most of the way in to where it just needs a couple more turns to start to be torqued down. Same deal with the other end. Lift it up, put the pin in, and then tighten it down. After obviously you put the jack over there to that side, you put the jack over there to that side, lift it to where the wheel comes off the ground. Then put the bracket up there, take the pin, and if you have to, grab the control arm and line up the holes, push the pin in, and tighten it down to, again, 1 turn, 2 turns until starting to tighten. Then you can either drop the car or leave the car still jacked up on that side and then do both sides with the car jacked up. Take your 3/4 on your ratchet, and what you're going to do is just, this is fine with this ratchet, and just put your hand all the way on the end and get it as tight as you can with this ratchet. That should be good. You could torque it. I did not measure the torque that was required to take it off, so I do not know. Then when you use your other, after you tighten up both this side, the driver's side, and the passenger side, then you need to go and tighten up the 15mm bolts. just tighten it with your knuckle around this piece, because you do not want to strip that bolt. That bolt's way smaller than these bolts over here, and this one's got way more thread on it than the nut that this guy contacts. So go ahead and just tighten it like this, as tight as you could get it with your knuckle around, or even like this for a little bit extra tightness. Just have it where your index finger is around the extension. Just tighten it as much as you can with that, and then you're pretty much good to go. Go ahead and give a tug on that brace, make sure it's connected all the way around, and after you snugged up the front, again I suggest you snug up the front by giving it the most leverage as possible. Snug up the front two first, and then do the back two. Then you're ready to go. That's it. It's going to take you about 15 minutes, probably no more than 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes to install it. After you get all your tools and everything pressed down, which you only need these two and one power tool. Again, this is a 15 millimeter with this kind of socket, this kind of extension, and then a 3/4 with this kind of extension. So stay tuned for my final review. I'll get some hours on this car driving, and I'll let you know what I think. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.